Calls tonight for the government to introduce a strict monitoring regime for all under 5-year-olds in New Zealand in the wake of a 4-year-old Flaxmere boy being brutally beaten 2 weeks ago. The recommendation was originally made by Coroner Wallace Bain following the brutal murder of Rotorua toddler Nia Glassie, who suffered appalling abuse, including being spun in a clothes dryer. Judge Bain repeated the recommendation for compulsory registration and monitoring of children up to the age of 5, including scheduled and unscheduled home visits. In his report into the death of Moko Rangitoheriri, another toddler brutally abused and tortured, Scott Guthrie, who is the CEO of Transforming Justice, a foundation focused on rehabilitation and fairness for victims, is saying that the coroner's recommendations are gathering dust while successive governments have failed to act.
Dr. Wallace Bain did the coronial inquiry into Nia Glassie and Moko Rangitoheriri and several other children, and not many of his recommendations have been implemented or even followed, and those recommendations would have saved a hell of a lot of children's lives.
Remind us what the key ones are in terms of monitoring children, the ones that haven't been implemented.
Okay, key one would have to be urgently assist in providing appropriate monitoring and oversight of young children within government agencies, and that is referring to the likes of Plunket, entering homes, etc. That from birth, all children from birth be compulsory registered with government agencies, because we do have children out there that aren't registered, so that we're seeing these children on a 2 to 3 monthly basis at a doctor's premises or even in their private homes. Wallace Bain referred to entering a private house more specifically, because then we could see the environment that these children are living in and knowing that they're living in a safe and healthy environment.
Sorry, and to what age did he want that recommendation implemented?
Up to the age of 5, because then we could see children at school on a daily basis, and alarm bells would start ringing if they weren't attending school on a regular basis, etc. But he wanted it implemented up to the age of 5.
Were there recommendations in relation to sole parent households as well?
Absolutely. That there be compulsory state intervention and monitoring oversight of the care of children in all following circumstances: a single parent family who had previously come to the attention of SIFs, a single parent who was working full-time and placed their child in the care of others, a single parent on the DPB, and wherever there had been domestic or child violence arising in that household.
Okay, well, this raises some really serious questions about where the line is with state intervention and monitoring, because why should the focus just be on sole parent households, for example, that have been singled out there in those recommendations?
If we have a look at the history of Moko, came from a sole parent family, although it wasn't sole parent that was caring for him at the time. Nia Glassie, same sort of situation. A lot of these children are in a sole parent or a de facto relationship situation. That's where the problem lies. So that's why he's focusing on that specific. Let's have a look at the history, Lisa, because the history is very clear of what sort of family situations commonly these children are dying in.
Not all children, though, who are abused come from sole parent families, and a lot of people will look at these recommendations and say perhaps they haven't been introduced because they are draconian. What would you say to that?
No, I don't agree that they're draconian. What we've got to focus on is the families and the lifestyle that is coming to our attention at the moment. We can't single out single-parent families and say they're bad, because that's not what we're trying to do. But if we look at the history, the very clear history of child abuse in this country, there is a consistent, solid line of Moko, Nia Glassie, Lily Bing, James Whakaruru, and they all come from, I would even go as far as say, dysfunctional families, single-parent families. I'm not saying single parents kill their children, but history tells us single parent, high high stress levels, high pressure. There is the consistency there, Lisa.
So are you suggesting we, in essence, profile families and watch those families until their children are 5 years old?
No, absolutely not. What I'm saying is I don't want to profile families. I'm saying mainstream. And Wallace Bain said exactly that. If we had Plunkett going into houses from birth right up to the age of 5 and assessing seeing the kiddies at home, having a cup of tea with mum and a chat, what's the stress level in the home? Is everything all good in the home? We would see a lot less harm in our community to children. And I'm talking about two-parent families. I'm talking about every child that's born in this country. Why can't we have a system where qualified people go and have a cup of tea, talk to the kids, what's going on here? Everything's all good, and out the door we go.
So,
pretty common sense.
Why do you think this level of abuse keeps happening in our country?
Well, I don't know. The themes are very common. As Dr. Russell Wells, the ex-Children's Commissioner, said, the themes are very common for child abuse. The victims tend to be very young. They tend to be in families with abject poverty and drug and alcohol abuse. Drug and alcohol abuse is rife in New Zealand. But there is no simple answer. Men are regularly violent to their female partners and their children. We've got to stop that. Often there is alcohol at the bottom of child abuse, and alcohol is absurdly cheap in New Zealand. There hasn't been a fall in deaths of children, so clearly the government strategies for alcohol and drug abuse and monitoring children are not working. Start listening to the professionals and their suggestions that they want to put forward.
So do you think the government should adopt these outstanding recommendations made by the Coroner Wallace Bain?
Absolutely, 100% in support of that.
Have you spoken to any minister or government official about this?
Yes, I have.
Who, and what's been the response?
I don't want to say who yet, but high-ranking official, and the response has been very positive. But as you know, Lisa, the message that I get is that the wheels of government turn slowly. So my response to the government officials that I spoke to was simply the wheels turned very quickly when the Christchurch massacre happened. We are losing children in this country to murder every 5 weeks. We need to turn the wheels more quickly in relation to child abuse. We need to start waking up and protecting our little babies. We need to step up in this country because we're the third highest offending country in the OECD for child abuse. And as I said to you before, Lisa, every 5 weeks we kill a child in this country. It's horrific. And we can't stay silent. Someone has to be held accountable, but we've got to change things.